association management operates inside a rigid legal box. Step outside of it, and you're no longer managing property, you are committing professional malpractice. The state of Florida takes this boundary so seriously that understanding it, Module 5 of the curriculum, accounts for a massive 15% of the total LCAM state examination. Beyond the tactical chores of dispatching plumbers or checking pool chemistry, an LCAM executes strict administrative authority on behalf of a multi-million-dollar corporation. This represents your liability matrix, broken into 3 operational pillars: legal contractual limits, strict licensure renewal mathematics, and human resource regulations. Violate these pillars, and you face criminal prosecution, administrative fines, or permanent license revocation. Knowing exactly where your authority begins and ends is the singular difference between a protected professional and an active legal liability. Let's look closely at the first pillar, the precise administrative limits of your contractual authority. Florida law strictly prohibits the unauthorized practice of law, or UPL. For a manager, this means you can never interpret conflicting legal provisions for an owner or modify the actual text of an association's governing documents. This chart maps your permissions. Administratively, you can complete pre-printed proxies, draft agendas, and fill out assessment coupons. However, you trigger a UPL violation if you attempt to draft bylaw amendments, write structural legal descriptions, or draft an assessment lien. Imagine an HOA president pulls you aside before a board meeting. He tells you to rewrite recorded covenants to ban dogs over 50 pounds so the board can vote on it Tuesday. You must legally refuse that direct instruction. Rewriting covenant text is a contractual modification that directly impacts the substantive property rights of the owners. The state exam requires you to know this exact distinction. You can format the physical agenda document scheduling the vote, but only a licensed Florida attorney can draft the text of the amendment itself. Beyond drafting documents, Florida Statute 468.436 binds you to a rigid fiduciary duty. You owe the association absolute honesty, fair dealing, and fiscal fidelity. This dictates how you handle vendors. If you recommend a roofing company owned by your spouse, the disclosure rule requires a full written disclosure of that conflict of interest to the board before they ever vote to hire them. And if a contractor offers you a kickback or an unapproved financial benefit for securing that contract, accepting it is a third-degree felony. Every piece of paper you draft and every vendor you recommend carries immediate legal jeopardy if you cross these statutory boundaries. The second pillar governs your ability to legally work at all. Active licensure status ignores your specific hire date. It operates on a rigid mathematical timeline. This timeline shows the strict biennial renewal schedule, terminating on October 31st of even-numbered years. To renew, you must complete 15 hours of DBPR-approved education, divided into mandatory 3-hour blocks: core law, operations, budgeting, insurance, and human resources. Hitting those exact categorical hours and paying the required fees grants you active status. You are legally permitted to practice management. If you submit a form to the DBPR to enter inactive status, you are legally barred from performing any paid management services, but you are also exempt from completing those ongoing CE hours until you choose to reactivate. Fail to meet the exact 15-hour metric by the deadline, and your license falls into expired status. Look closely. A manager completes 12 hours by September 15th and pays their renewal fee on October 10th. Paying the fee doesn't erase the 3-hour educational deficit. Missing the 15-hour requirement means their license automatically expires on November 1st. If that manager works on November 2nd, they are engaging in unlicensed activity, which carries a fine of up to $5,000. Professional intention is irrelevant to the state. Licensure compliance is a strict binary mathematical threshold. The third pillar shifts from your personal license to your operational liability over the personnel and contractors maintaining the physical property. This scale shows the level of control test. Providing tools, setting exact hours, supervising tasks, and paying regular wages means a worker is a W-2 employee. Conversely, bringing their own equipment, setting their schedule, and charging a flat fee makes them a 1099 contractor. Knowing who is an employee directly ties into Florida's strict workers' compensation triggers. Under standard state law, the non-construction rule dictates that a normal corporate entity only needs workers' compensation insurance once it reaches 4 or more employees. This organizational chart highlights a critical statutory exception for community managers, the Association Absolute Rule. Because an association handles real estate infrastructure, the threshold drops drastically. Hiring a single part-time employee, like a janitor, legally mandates the association to carry a valid workers' compensation policy. Protecting those workers also means navigating federal OSHA safety regulations on the property. Community infrastructure includes highly regulated hazardous chemical storage zones, specifically commercial pool pump rooms and janitorial closets storing industrial chlorine and acids. OSHA strictly mandates that these storage areas feature a highly visible binder containing updated safety data sheets, or SDS, for every chemical on site. Under the Right to Know mandate, employers must physically provide maintenance staff with protective gear, like respirators and goggles, and conduct formalized training so they know exactly how to read those hazard warning codes. Physical operational control over property personnel requires absolute daily adherence to federal safety mandates and state tax thresholds. This fully populated liability matrix proves that Florida Community Association management is an exercise in strict statutory architecture, not casual oversight. Your daily work requires you to precisely interpret the limits of your contractual authority, track rigid continuous education timelines, and accurately classify physical employee control. Crossing any of these three operational boundaries triggers severe criminal, civil, or professional consequences. Mastering this liability matrix ensures you meet the standards of Module 5 while establishing the foundation for a liability-free professional career.